Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. You can join us live and get in the chat room. I want to talk to you tonight about the warning that we got from the mosque in Jerusalem. There was an Al-Aqsa Mosque address recently by one Abu Hanifa Alda. In his address, he mentioned the jizya tax as described in the Quran. This is a tax imposed on a certain erring faction from among the people of the book. That's non-Muslim groups such as Christians and Jews, who are recognized in the Quran as possessing a divine scripture, not the right one, clearly, but a tax imposed on the people of the book who violate their own religious and ethical principles. He's quoting from the Quran, book 9, chapter 9, verse 29. The Christian Broadcasting Network reported very recently on a Muslim who fears his own faith's extremists and said, quote, if Christians don't wake up, if Christian leaders don't wake up, then we Muslims who fled from extremists can't help you anymore. We tried warning you. End of quote. Now the Middle East Media Research Institute, which monitors and reports on chatter in the media throughout the region, has found a new list of threats. The threats are from Palestinian Sheikh Abu Hanifa Alda. He addressed the people recently. I just read to you somewhat of what he said. His threat, listed in a video later, was uploaded to the internet. And here he said, indeed, O people of Jerusalem, this is the heartland. This is the land of the oath of allegiance. This is where the banners of the caliphate will flutter. This is where the military convoys will gather. This is where the brigades will assemble under their banners, heralding a new dawn, a dawn of justice and the birth of a divine state, the caliphate that will follow the guidance of the prophethood. He went on to say, policies will be designed here. From here, armies will set out to conquer the world. The mighty army of Islam with all its brigades. He then listed the brigades that he wants to see. One brigade will liberate Palestine. Another one will ravage the homes, as is written in the Quran. A third brigade will destroy whatever would fall into their hands. A fourth brigade will take revenge against Bashar al-Assad and Russia. The Assad family belonged to Syria's Alawite minority, a Shiite sect of Islam that traditionally constitutes about 10% of the population and has played a dominant role in Syrian politics since the 1960s. A fifth brigade will liberate all the plundered Muslim countries. A sixth brigade will cross the oceans and put the enemy to shame. Talking about us. A seventh brigade will lay siege to Rome. An eighth brigade will turn the White House black. A ninth brigade will impose the jizya poll tax on London. A 10th brigade will pray to fend off fear and danger on the slopes of the Rocky Mountains and the Andes. Now, anti-Sharia campaigner Pamela Geller wrote online, they tell us we may choose to be deaf, but you can't say they didn't tell us their plans. Militant Muslims are never at rest where world domination is concerned. It is their religious birthright, and they are determined to achieve it. Moderate Muslims are less aggressive, but no less committed to these same goals. You see, it is specified in the Quran and therefore must be obeyed. Iranians, for example, are not Arabs, but they are Muslim, and as such they share the same goals, goals which are closer to realization today than at any time in the past. Muslim armies set out to dominate the known world 1400 years ago. Muhammad conquered the bulk of Western Arabia between 624 and 632 when he died. His successor launched Islam into an almost 1500 years of continual conquest and subjugation by means of invasion and war. The lust for Muslim imperialist conquest stretched from southern France to the Philippines, from Austria to Nigeria, from Central Asia to New Guinea. They employed the policy and practice of seeking to dominate the economic and political affairs of weaker countries. The Muslim goal was to have a central government, first at Damascus and then at Baghdad, later at Cairo, Istanbul, or other imperial centers. The local governors, judges, and other rulers were appointed by the central imperial authorities for far-off colonies. Islamic law was introduced as the dominant law, whether or not wanted by local people. Arabic was introduced as the ruler's language, and the local language frequently disappeared. Two classes of residents were established: the native residents who paid a tax, and their colonialist rulers who did not have to pay. Although the law differed in different places, the following are examples of colonialist laws to which colonized Christians and Jews were made subject over the years. In 732, Muslim forces of 40 to 60,000 cavalry were moving up the Atlantic coast through Spain and farther into Europe. Charles Martel of France led a force of 1,500 soldiers against them and defeated them in a surprising and definitive way, saving Europe from Muslim conquest. Islam would go on to conquer the nations surrounding the Mediterranean, and around the turn of the century, 1096 to 1247 AD, were the Crusades, European armies marching across southern Europe to free Jerusalem from Muslim control, something that occurred in 1244. The term imperialism is applied to Islam for good reason, the classic definition of which is a policy or ideology of extending a nation's rule over foreign nations, often by military force, or by gaining political and economic control or other means. The Muslim wars of imperialist conquest were launched for almost 1,500 years against hundreds of nations over millions of square miles, significantly larger than the British Empire at its peak. In the 20th century, Islam has contented itself with biding its time, solidifying its hold over the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, the Saudi Peninsula, and along the north coast of Africa. Islam is made up of a wide range of people groups, identities which have been largely suborned under the term Islam. But in this group are the ancient Ishmaelites, Arameans, Hivites, Edomites, Adulamites, Midianites, Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Jebusites, Amalekites, Ammonites, Moabites, and the Nephilim. Arameans, Adulamites, Sidonians, Hivites, Jebusites, as well as Egyptians. Some are identified through Adam, Cain, Enoch, Irad, Mahujael, etc. Others are identified through Adam and Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth. After the flood came Gomer, Magog, Madia, Javan, Ashkenaz, Rippah, Togarmah, Cush, Mizraim, Put, Canaan, Seba, Havilah, Ramah, and of course Nimrod, son of Cush, son of Ham. Abraham begat Ishmael and Isaac, creating a definite separation between what we call Israel and the Arabs. But the Arabs of today trace their heritage back through these ancient people groups, adopting the term Arab for convenience. For example, Arabs are made up of many distinct people groups, the term being one of convenience, not reality. Egyptians are not Arabs, Iranians are not Arabs, they're Persian. But what binds them together today is their language. The term Arab literally means one who speaks clearly. Their religion, Islam, and their hatred of Israel is what keeps them together. You see, their head, Ishmael, was Abraham's firstborn son, yet Ishmael was sent away, while Isaac became heir to the promise. And it's a bitterness that has never gone away. These sons of Ishmael are never going to rest until Israel is gone from the planet, never to return. They will tolerate the Persians, even though there is no love lost between them. Iran would just as soon wipe out the Saudis, the Bahrain, Qatar, and all the rest of them. They're not fond of the Iraqis or the Syrians or the Turks, but as long as they are Islamists, they are bound together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Going forward, we watch what happens with Iran. Iran wants to shut down the Persian Gulf. It's probably about oil. Iran has lost some of her customers. And two Saudi Arabian oil tankers and a Norwegian ship were attacked this past week. One of the Saudi tankers had been preparing to deliver oil to the United States. Look for an increased patrolling and surveilling of drones, or by drones. Look for some sort of financial pressure to be applied to Iran. Look for one of Iran's gunboats to disappear accidentally. These are all part and parcel of an ancient war between half-brothers. And it will not end quickly or shortly. I mentioned all the tribal groups, all the family names earlier in this piece, because they are all now called Arabs. But they are not all Arabs. They are all from various different genetic lines. They have pulled together under this umbrella to defeat Israel. And as Israel is being defended by the West, they're going after the West as well. And they really don't care if they die trying. That was the message from the Mosque just in the last week. It's an ancient message, and it's being reinforced today. We are getting closer to the end. It will result in a tremendous Arab uprising. It will focus on Israel, Jerusalem specifically. They want it back. Pray for the peace of Israel.